3 surprisingly easy AI strategies for every classroom. Episode 858.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Thank you, EverFi, for sponsoring today's episode. Learn about EverFi's free resources that will give your students a head start and will save you valuable planning time. I'll tell you more at the end of the show, or you can go to everfi.com/coolcat to learn more. Now, on with the show. Today, we're talking with my friend Monica Burns, Edtech and Curriculum Consultant, former New York City public school teacher. She writes ClassTechTips.com and has the Easy Edtech podcast. Monica, you have 2 resources out. You have using AI chatbots to enhance planning and instruction. Also, you've got version 2 of Edtech Essentials, 12 strategies for every classroom in the age of AI. Monica, we're going to talk about 3 awesome AI strategies for every class today. Where do we start?
Well, in Edtech Essentials, I talk about ways to make the most of tools and resources that we have access to, including AI-powered educational tools. So one strategy is to use these tools to help generate ideas. They're not perfect. They're not a replacement or substitution. They won't work without a great prompt or you knowing what it is that you're looking for. But if it can get you 70% of the way there, 80% of the way there, make you think of something that you see and say, oh, that's obvious. Can't believe I didn't think of that, right? It's going to help speed up that process. So one is to generate ideas. Another strategy is to use AI to connect to student interest. When you are looking to make connections between what kids are excited and interested about. One thing that AI is great at is making connections between 2 big ideas. So you can say we're teaching cause and effect to a group of 5th graders. They are still excited about Olympics, right? So whatever it might be, you can connect the 2 ideas. So that first strategy is generating ideas. The second one is connecting to student interest.
And you make a really important point. One thing I teach my students is that you should only use AI in an area where you are qualified to supervise it. Because if you're not qualified to supervise it, so for example, if I'm talking EdTech, if I'm talking Python programming, all of those things, I'm qualified to supervise it so that I can see the mistakes that it will inevitably make. I am not qualified to supervise it in brain surgery. I am not qualified to supervise it in how to pilot an airplane. So it'll look really smart. It knows enough to fool us, you know. The other thing, Monica, I usually like to ask 5 questions when kids come in. Low stakes, no stakes testing, like they talk about in John Lang's small teaching book. And so I'll take that one question and I'll throw it into ChatGPT and say, okay, I need 3 other ways to teach this concept. They don't understand it. And that's something I can instantly do in class, look at that, get an idea, and then pivot. So it's actually helping me with my formative instruction because I'm in the moment. And, you know, when you're in the moment, sometimes you just can't think of those ideas.
It's so important what you said too, because it's not going to work well without your expertise, without your experience, without you knowing where to start, right? We talk about this when it comes to differentiation too, just like assessment, right? Like I know what the students need, but I might not have time to create a great resource or to get to that next step, right? The AI is there, but it needs me, right, to be able to guide it in that direction.
Yeah, I went to Saudi Arabia a couple weeks ago, and I wanted my students to actually learn about AI while I was out. So I gave the tool 6 objectives that I had for my students to learn about AI. And I said, help me generate a tool that I can put in Google Docs that will help measure this and help move the direction. And like you said, it got me about 70% of the way there. I made a few tweaks, but it probably saved me 3 hours. AI can be a tool in the area of expertise where we have it. And I just wish more educators could see the time-saving aspects that you're advocating. So what's our third?
You set me up there perfectly for that third one with the time saving piece. So the third one is really to speed up our communication. I don't know about you or listeners, but when it comes to a busy day, I sometimes only have so much brain capital for write that email just right. Or I really want another pair of eyes, right, to take a look at what I've written before I send it out to someone. Or I just know that something could be formatted better. Like I want people to read my email, right, that I'm sending back to their question. And maybe having bullet points makes a lot more sense than my paragraphs that are kind of lengthy. So you can use AI to take something that you've written, maybe it's an email, right? Just scoop out that personal information, add it in later, whatever your mode is for that. And it can help you speed up your communication and make sure that it is ready to go, whether that means it's a little more concise, a little more clear, or formatted in a way that makes more sense for your reader.
And of course, there's the caveat on privacy, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you like to tell teachers about private information?
Yeah, so I always say save that for later, right? If you're asking for help writing a reminder for a field trip, have it write a template for you and then you plug in the details later, right? If you have an email and you're not sure how to answer it, don't pop the email in and say, answer this for me. Say, this is the kind of response I want to give to someone. And then you can describe the situation and it can help you craft a response.
Yes. And you have a tool that's private to your school.
Mhm.
That's a tool that's not sending back your data, not sending back your text back to the company.
Yeah.
And several companies, offer that type of tool, but you would never type anything private into a
Mhm.
public tool, what we call a public tool, like the public version of ChatGPT. Now, there's some private labeled stuff that runs off of it that does
Yeah.
keep it private, so
Mhm.
understanding that privacy is just because sometimes teachers will say, kids have these essays they're writing for admissions to college. And so I use ChatGPT to give me feedback. And I'm just like, no, no, like that's
No,
all their private
right?
information. You're putting it in,
Yeah.
like that is just such a bad idea.
Mhm. And I'm right there with you. I think when it comes to creating templates, creating outlines, or asking for ideas, that's really a great sweet spot. You might say, I want to thank someone for coming and helping out with the car wash. Can you help me write a great message? You do that, you get 70% of the way there, and then you add that sentence in about the recipe that they told you about and you tried out afterward. So it's a way to have a collaborator, a helper, an assistant, but it's not there to take over control. And you can personalize and make things your own after you've done that first pass or the drafting or template creation
Yeah.
using one of these tools.
One reason I like to follow you is that you always say
Mhm.
tasks before apps, and that is so
Yeah.
important. But some years ago when wiki spaces went away, making global collaboration work has been extremely hard since then.
Mhm.
And there's other tools that have gone away. Most recently, Flipgrid has gone away. Sometimes a school might cancel a subscription and the teacher
Exactly.
was all in and they had all their stuff in there. So what kind of recommendations do you have for teachers? Okay, if this tool goes away, how can you keep your content?
Yeah. So my book, Edtech Essentials, one of the strategies, chapter 11 in the book is transfer, right? And building transferable skills, not just for students, that's part of it, but also for us to be able to say this works in this kind of space. And now I can transfer that into a new spot I might be in. We want kids to build those skills, to be able to find the camera button that kind of looks the same as they jump around. And we want to model for that and use it in our own professional and personal life too. So one thing that I would say is a really good best practice is to look at your categories of tools, right? To say, this is the kind of tool that I use when I'm sharing information. And maybe you have a slide-based tool that you use and you can download or export and put it all in a folder, someplace that you can access a little bit later. Maybe you have an archive strategy. I know one of my strategies is once a month, I go in and I download a set of information from one of my tools. That way it's in a folder and I know that I can access it later on my device, on my hard drive, on a tool that is not specific to just one way of working. So it's absolutely frustrating that we want to acknowledge that is a hard thing for both students and teachers to adapt to. But if you can start thinking of the way you use technology in like buckets or categories, that can ease some of the transition from tool to tool. And it's great to have a regular strategy. I set an appointment on my calendar. It doesn't have to be the last day of the month. That tends to be really busy. It can just be the second Thursday where you are downloading or archiving information from one place that you know might be a little bit in flux.
Excellent advice. What EdTech tools have you played with recently that you're just like, yeah, I'm excited about this?
Yeah, so I, of course, am watching a lot of the AI-powered EDU tools. I love the ChatGPT and Claude, but one that I'm really excited about is Diffit. They have a tool that you can use to generate content. I think one area that's a strong point is you can use it for differentiation, make one sort of activity for one group and then regenerate for another. And another tool I'm watching is Brisk Teaching. I love how they call Brisk it, although it makes me hungry when I say it. I can't help but giggle every time I say it to someone. But I love that because not only are they helping, again, create content that can support differentiation, which I think is one of the exciting pieces about AI, but they also have some other like complementary tools that can help foster conversations with kids about how they're creating content, which is another area that I know I get lots of questions on when I work with schools and districts.
Excellent. When I emailed my fellow teachers about Diffit, it was almost like squeals went through the school. Like I've had more people who ran back to me, thank you, just because you can take a concept and you can create so many different versions and look at those versions and figure out, okay, which way do I want it? Do I want this as a cooperative experience? It just gives you so many options.
Oh, yeah.
Just a fantastic tool.
I'm really excited about this space, particularly looking at these tools through the lens of differentiation, analyzing experiences for students, and of course, making sure our formative assessment is really sticky too.
Excellent. Monica Byrne, thank you for sharing your information. The book is EdTech Essentials, 12 Strategies for Every Classroom in the Age of AI. Second edition came out in June 2024. Go to her website, classtechtips.com. Thanks for coming on the show, Monica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you want to equip your students for success in their careers and personal lives, but you just don't know where to start? I'm going to tell you today about an awesome free opportunity you have to do just that for all grades K through 12. EverFi has your go-to solution. It aligns with state standards and has earned the prestigious ISTE seal. EverFi's digital lessons are crafted to empower your students to excel in our dynamic world. The lessons are interactive, self-paced, and designed by content experts. They have courses such as financial literacy, workforce readiness, character building, mental health, and prevention education for all grade levels. And thanks to EverFi's generous partners, these research-based resources come at no cost to all K-12 schools, districts, and students. So visit everfi.com/coolcat. That's everfi.com/coolcat and get started today on these amazing lessons for free.
You've been listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. If you want more content from Vicki Davis, you can find her on Facebook, X.com, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Cool Cat Teacher. Thank you for listening.